reminiscing about stuff, right? It's like when you're young, you don't reminisce. You don't think about the past that much. You think about the future. You think about what's to come, not what has been. But I don't know, the last little while, I think as I'm getting older, I think about my past and the path that I've taken to get from there to here, right? Especially with all the big life changes recently I've had. I think that, especially having all those things happen, really makes me sit there and be like, okay, how did I get here? How did I end up here, right? And, with the age bracket, the demographic of my viewership, that I can see that in my YouTube analytics. I did my video a little while ago talking about relationships. At some point in the future, I want to talk about my experiences with education. I'm just not ready to do that one yet. But I think like being able to talk to you guys about these things, just kind of ramble and share my experiences, I think it can be beneficial for people potentially, or at the very least, just relaxing. So I was thinking about friendships. Because I reactivated my Facebook like a couple weeks back. Mainly because there's this Facebook group for Americans living abroad in Australia, so I want to join that group, and they do like events and things like that, so that could be kind of a fun social thing for me to do. So I joined it primarily to get involved with that. But then I saw like my friends list, and I was seeing all these people that I haven't interacted with for years and years and years. And some of these people, I'm like, man, I used to be like inseparable with these people. I used to see these people every day. Now, like, I don't even know what's happened with them, like, in the last however long. Right? Like, it's weird. And that's even before I moved, right? And I was thinking, like, my friends now, like, the people I'm still close with now, are not the people I was close with in school. With, like, one exception. And I was thinking about that, like, that's just really weird. And, for those of you who are in a certain spot in life right now, or in certain circumstances right now, whatever your social group is, whatever is like, you don't know that that's going to be, it'll change so much in 1 year, maybe not, but in 2, in 5, in 10, the people you're surrounding yourself could be completely different. I had a best friend from 5th grade to 7th grade. He and I were, we were staying the night at each other's houses every other weekend. We, like, went on vacations together. Like, he and I were super tight, super close. And then, like, 7th, 8th grade rolls around, going into freshman year, and we just lost contact. We start getting into different social circles, right? Like, I kind of started to congregate towards this group of people. We congregated towards this group of people. And we just stopped talking. And then, like, probably 5 or 6 years after we graduated, because we were in the same class, so we would have been like 24, 25 at the time, I went to a barbecue place, and he was like a waiter there, and like we recognized each other, we said hi, but that was like the extent of the conversation. Like, beyond that, it was just, that was it. And like I said, this is somebody that for years we were inseparable, and finally we see each other after all that time, not talking, not being friends, and It's just hello, he takes my order. And that was the extent of it. But then going into high school, I had this totally different group of friends. Like I said, as I started to kind of migrate this other direction, this guy became friends with Shane. He and I started becoming friends towards the end of middle school. But then coming into freshman year, he was one of the only people that I went to middle school with that transitioned to the same high school as me, because there was like 3 or 4 high schools that people were going to. Actually, no, he went to a different high school freshman year. He transferred over sophomore year. That's right, so we were apart for a year. And then he came back over sophomore year. And he and I made friends with these 2 guys who were a year older than us, Travis and Keaton. And we were together all the time. Travis had a car, none of the rest of us did, so after school and sometimes during school, like pretty much every day, we would, school would get done and we'd get in Travis's car and just go do whatever, just to go be menaces to society. Man, we did some dumb stuff. Coming home however late at night, after being out all day, driving around, like not even really do anything, kind of just like loitering around, being 15, right? That's kind of what we did. And I would think we were just, there was a time like we crashed out. This would have been probably a Thursday or Wednesday night. We crashed out in my basement, and we got every single flavor of Four Loko. And then there was this competitor to Four Loko as well. I can't remember what it was called. I can't remember what it was called, but we got like every flavor of Four Loko and this other competitor to Four Loko. And we had this like big gallon jug, and we like just poured it all in there, all the flavors in one. And then between the 4 of us finished the whole thing that night, went to school the next day, like clothes reeking of alcohol, malt liquor. We would leave. Our high school was right across the street from a McDonald's. We would just randomly in the middle of a period be like, hey, can I go to the bathroom? Walk across, we'd like plan it, like, okay, at this time, like we'd all like go to the bathroom in the middle of class, go walk over to McDonald's. Shane lived just like a 10-minute walk from our high school, so on our lunch breaks we'd always, like the 4 of us, we'd always walk over to Shane's house, smoke weed in his bedroom, like secretively while his parents weren't home. Come back to class, like start of 4th period, all of us would just be eyes completely red and glazed over. Like, that was 2 years of my life just doing that. 2 years of my life being completely inseparable from those 3 other guys. We did everything, like, we took the same classes on purpose, like all of us took the same 2nd and 3rd period class, so like we would all be together in that class and like go leave and like do whatever and stuff. It's a wonder I ever graduated high school, honestly. If you would have asked me at the time, I would have thought that the 4 of us would be friends for the rest of our lives. And at the time, the show Workaholics was kind of new and it was like really popular. And we had this master plan that after we graduated high school, the 4 of us were gonna go move down to the Oregon coast and buy a house and just sell weed full time. Like, that was gonna be our job. We're gonna live at the beach selling weed. We're like, it's gonna be great. This is gonna be like, we would like go down Like, there was legitimately a couple times we would drive down to the Oregon coast and, like, look at houses. Like, we could buy this house, we could buy this house, we could sell weed out of this house. Like, that was our long-term goal. But then Keaton moved to California, Travis moved to Colorado. I've seen Keaton a handful of times since. I talked about that in my relationship video a little bit, I think, or I talked about it in a previous video at the very least. I don't remember which one, but he's the one I moved down and visited when he lived in California. I talked about some of his personal issues. I don't speak with him anymore. Travis I still talk to from time to time. I've never seen him again since he left. And the only person I'm still friends with in that group is Shane. And I've been friends with Shane non-stop since that time. But like I said, the four of us were inseparable. Now it's like him and I, and we were roommates for a little bit. I did a music video for him that I posted in my community tab a few months back. You know, so he and I have stayed really close friends. But now, like, I have probably 3 friends that I message on a daily or almost daily basis. Shane is one of them. My other friend is this guy, his name's David. And, he was a guy that I went to high school with, but I wasn't really friends with. He ran with a totally different crowd than I did. Now, I was kind of a social chameleon. I could kind of blend into any group that I needed to blend into. But he and I just did not run in the same circles. He was an athlete. He was very conservative Christian. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but that just wasn't who I was. He was very much like a clean-cut, all-American guy. Played football, played baseball. That wasn't my vibe. That's still not my vibe. But I remember just out of the blue, because he and I both took video production classes, but we just like didn't talk, but we're in the same class. Just out of the blue one day, he'd been graduated for 3 years or something like that. I'd only been out for a year, or maybe even less than a year at that point. He reached out to me. He's like, "Hey, I am working on this project. Would you be open to helping?" And I had never really talked to him before that at all. I was like, "Yeah, for sure, whatever." And I went out and we shot this little short film together, just a short action scene, like 6-minute fight scene video that he wanted to do. It's still up on YouTube, I'm pretty sure, actually. And then since then, we've just been like super close. He's probably the person I'm closest with. We still text every day, video call. Like, he and I, we've like super close friends. You know, we've gone vacations together. He was one of the people who was there for me when I was at my lowest. I've been there for him through his ups and downs, the birth of his children, his wedding. And it was just a totally out of the blue. We had a shared hobby. He reached out to me, I agreed, and now he's like probably the person I speak most with, the person I'm closest to, outside of my family, right, and my girlfriend. But, he knows so many of my secrets and things like that. And I would have never expected that, especially back then. And then this last one, this kind of sound wild, but there's this website. It's called the Simulation Hockey League, and it's like Dungeons and Dragons, but for hockey. So it's all done on forums and using Franchise Hockey Manager, and like you have to like do forum posts or little tests, earn points. You use those points to upgrade your player that you create, and your player goes on these fictional teams. They use this program to like simulate games of fictional teams and fictional players, but the players are being, controlled but role played by people on the website. It's all very nerdy and geeky. I got into that like 2018, because there's a developmental league. I know your eyes just glazed over. There's a developmental league. And I got drafted to a team in the developmental league, and there was like 4 players in the draft class total. I was one of them. And one of the other guys in the draft class, what's funny is, I didn't like him at first. At first, he really annoyed me. The team locker rooms roll over Discords, like you get drafted to a team, and then you join the Discord, and like all the people are in there. And it was actually a really cool group of people, I had a really great time with the Simulation Hockey League. I'm no longer a member. It was just too much of a time sink for me. I didn't have the time for it, but yeah, and I didn't really like him at first, this guy Dan. And but then we started talking more and more. Which is funny, is we really didn't start talking until after I stopped playing. He still is involved in the league. I'm not, obviously, but he and I still talk every day over Discord. And like we realized we had a ton in common. We have a very similar sense of humor, similar hobbies. And he actually flew out. He lives in Florida. He flew out to Oregon a couple years back before COVID. And like we got an Airbnb and we just hung out, and like it was dope. And I was planning on flying out to Florida to go hang out with him, but then COVID happened, and obviously then all the stuff I went through happened, so that never ended up happening. But he and I are really good friends. Like, we talk all the time. And yeah, I mean, that I would have never in a million years imagined some random dude I met on a hockey forum role-playing website would end up being one of my closest friends. But I mean, there you are, I guess. I don't know if there's really a moral to this story, like thinking about it, but I think it's just one of those things I'm like reminiscing and kind of thinking about. And I think, if there's anything, it's that you need to be open to possibilities. You need to understand, especially if you're younger, that the people you're with now, the circumstances, everything you're in now, it may seem so important and overwhelming and like concrete right now. Like, this is just the way it is. This is the way it's always gonna be. But things can change massively, very quickly. Because I really only have like 3 close friends at this age, and those are basically the 3 of them: David, Dan, and Shane. Shane's girlfriend, I would say I'm good friends with her as well, but it's a little bit different. It's my friend's partner. Her and I haven't really ever spoken outside the context of, hanging out with him there, right? Like, her and I live together because we're all roommates, but, and especially nowadays with social media and, all these online communities we find ourselves being able to be a part of, it's both easier to make friends, but I find it's also easier to lose them and to get swept up in, things that are not genuine, things that are manufactured. And I think that it's important that we strive to find things that are real friendships, that are strong actual friendships. Like, the people I just mentioned, they're people I know I can rely on, even though I'm half a world away. I could call them, text them at any time, and they would be available for me. They're not using me for any personal advancement. They're not, there's no ulterior motives there. It's about that vulnerability as well. I think, a lot of people now do have a hard time being vulnerable, even supposedly with the people they're closest with. And I see things sometimes like friends tearing each other down, or even worse, partners, like boyfriends, girlfriends, husbands, wives, tearing each other down and using each other's weaknesses against each other to try to gain something. And I look at it and I'm lucky that I've cultivated a group of people that doesn't behave in that way. Like, I feel no qualms about being vulnerable with the people who are close to me, opening up about things that make me uncomfortable, that are weaknesses for me. And I can trust that they'll never take advantage of that. So, if you're struggling with that, if you have people in your circle that you're like, I don't really know how I feel about this person that I'm friends with, or whatever, it's important to recognize that they're not always going to be there, and you shouldn't compromise your happiness, your security, your safety to be somebody that more likely than not is going to be transient in your life. There's going to be a day you wake up, they're not there anymore. But what did you sacrifice because of their presence? What did you have to deal with because of their presence? And when you find those people that aren't like that, when you find those people that are enriching to your life and beneficial to your life, well, make sure they're the ones that you keep around, even if they're the unexpected ones, even if they come from places you would never think to look for them, and be open to those opportunities. I had this guy reach out to me that was the polar opposite of me in basically every way, socially, everything. I thought we would have no common ground at all. I thought, no way I'm gonna get along with this guy. No way, or, whatever, but I was like, you know what? Let's see how it goes. I was open to the possibility, and now he and I are best friends. And we have tons of common ground. I know all I saw were these differences between us, and now I recognize all the things we had in common, and we still do have our differences. And obviously butt heads about certain things, but then we reconcile that, and it's water under the bridge. And we need to be open to those possibilities, just because you might think, oh, that person, there's no way, like, I don't want to talk to them, I don't want to, you never know. My 3 best friends, one of them is somebody I've known since 7th grade. One of them is somebody I went to school with, didn't talk to until after we both graduated. And one of them is somebody I met online because of a shared hobby. Never saw his real face until the day I met him in person. And, that's just things like that. So, I think that's maybe the heart of what I'm trying to say. Leave yourself open to possibilities. Know your worth and find your people. I hope that makes sense. If not, at the very least, I hope it was relaxing, like I said. I was just kind of been reminiscing and rambling, and I was sitting there, I was like, you know what, this might make it a decent thing to talk about for a couple minutes here, so I do hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, please leave a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel for more content just like this almost every single day. Until next time, guys.